Hello everyone and welcome back to the Retro Recall. I hope you're doing awesome. I'm back from vacation and excited to bring this new content to the channel today for all my viewers. Today we have 4 motherboards, 2 in box and 2 outside of the box. Now these motherboards, I can't exactly remember where I got them all. I do remember this one specifically only because that was recently featured on the Thrift Finds video right here. So if you haven't seen it, please take a look. And I'm excited to test these motherboards out on today's video. Today's scope is just to kind of plug them in, get them connected to a power supply, and just basically do a test to make sure that we can get these posting. And will give us some ideas of what to do with these in the future video. So, you know what? We have lots to do here, so let's get right to it. Okay, and we're back with everything kind of set up on the bench for our first test of this motherboard. And before we go over this motherboard and see what it is and see what we need to do to test it, we need a couple of items first. So I don't think we're going to need the following item exactly, but we do have a power supply tester. Always great to have. I believe on one of my other videos on the channel, I had plugged in a power supply to a motherboard, and I believe I ended up causing damage to the motherboard as a result of it. And one of the viewers has suggested make sure you get a power supply tester just to test out all the rails on the actual power supply itself to make sure all the voltages are perfect before plugging into a motherboard. I'd much rather lose a $5 tester than another vintage motherboard. So great idea, awesome, have that. You've seen this featured before, but definitely good to have. We also have a post analyzer board for ISA and PCI slots. And this also comes with a PC speaker type connection so you can hear the post beeps. But it gives you the codes in case you're running into any issues on the actual board itself. It helps troubleshoot that board and see if there's anything that we need to go hunting for versus just kind of, stabbing in the dark here to see what we can do to try to get it up and running. So great to have that as well. And then we also have a video card to use to test because not all of these motherboards have built-on video. Actually, I'm not sure if any of them do, but we have a PCI video card here. I'm choosing PCI because all 4 boards do have PCI capability, and it just makes sense instead of having to jump back and forth between AGP and PCI depending on the board. So I figured I would use this. This is an ATI Mach 64 video card from 1995, so a blast from the past for sure. But again, we only need this. So it says 1994 on the actual silk screen here, but I believe this is 1995. But again, great to have. We're not looking to do any gaming or anything like that today. We're literally just seeing if the system will post, and that's all we need to do that. Now, for a power supply, I kind of hemmed and hawed a bit as to what I was going to use. And I do have a power supply here that is 430 watts, I believe it is. Just a generic @Power brand, nothing fancy. I didn't test it, but I do like the ability that it has the switch on the back of it there to be able to turn on and off the power supply. But I noticed that, we have the standard 20-pin ATX, which of course has the 4-pin connector in case the board needs the 24-pin ATX, but we don't have any other connectors on here in case we need to connect anything further. Do we need, if it requires a 24-pin plus a 4-pin or 24-pin plus an 8-pin? So I was kind of like, well, we could just use this for this motherboard, for example. We'll support it just fine. But I believe another motherboard that we have here won't. So I'm not going to go in and out of doing that. So I figured what I would do is, I've been holding this off for quite a while to do that, but I have a brand new old stock in-box power supply. It's a Cool Max M500B, so it is a 500 watt power supply. So the nice thing about this is it does have the multiple connectors that I need. So it does have a 20 plus 4-pin ATX power supply plus a 4 plus 4-pin power supply for additional, it helps, the processor, I believe, drawing extra power. Plus, the nice thing about this power supply, it also has the Molex and the SATA connectors there for power. So definitely a universal type power supply. So let's get that opened up while we're here. May as well do that while we're on the channel. Hey, you know, you guys are getting bonus unboxing video time. And I was saving this for a build. I still will, of course. I mean, just because I'm using on this video doesn't mean that's the end of using it. But I definitely want to build another system and get this, utilize this power supply for another system. All right, here we are. We're opening that up. Get rid of the packaging there, and we'll see what is inside here. And if we can ever find the opening here, we're all set. There we go. Okay. We have it here, and here we are, a brand new old stock power supply, in box sealed. And great to have the power connector. We have hundreds of those, so put that aside. And we'll close the box off here and get that out of the way so that we can look at the actual power supply. And again, this video is not about the power supply, but we're just trying to get this situated and get it set up. Here we are. We'll open it all up. I mean, it's a pretty decent power supply by the looks of things. Pretty nice size fan that's in there. I believe it said 120 mil fan that's on there. Nice to see a brand new power supply that, you know, it's just for testing, but it's nice to have that. Although I don't think we need to test the power supply, I will. Let me just get that off there. It's just an elastic band. I thought it was one of those plastic tie straps there. Okay, we have that there, and we have our multitude of wires. Another thing I like about this power supply is the wires themselves are quite long in comparison to the other one that I have there. So that will help, you know, get where we need to go in terms of power the motherboard and not have to jury rig something up here. Okay, we have all that out. That's good to go. And so what I want to do is I will test the power supply out, and I do like that it has the switch there as well. So that's nice. So I'm just going to plug the power supply in and hope that nothing goes pop on us. There we go. It's plugged in. My power bar is plugged in up there. I have powered it up. I don't smell anything. So far, so good. Let me take the power supply tester and we'll test the ATX power supply out here. Yeah, everything's looking good there. Yeah, everything's within range, and of course, as soon as I put that on there, it automatically put a load on, so it activated the power supply. Okay, we are good for that. Now, let's get to the motherboard testing. Just wanted to go through that with everybody. I just think it's important to do that. Some people may or may not, but I think it's important to show everybody the setup as we go here. Let's go over the board for a moment here and see what we have. So we have let's see here. We have an Asus P3B-F motherboard. Now, I remember these motherboards being quite popular back in the day, quite sought after, mainly because of the fact that you had so much expansion available. The slot 1 motherboards were definitely a nice thing to have as well. Multiple RAM slots, so you had lots of compatibility there as well. And I'm just looking at this particular board, and the processor that's in it, the CPU, is showing a Pentium 3 600 CPU, and we have a Cooler Master heatsink and fan on this. So not the original to the Intel one that would have come with this, but definitely cool to have as long as that's functioning correctly. On this motherboard, we have the 2 PS2, we have 2 USB, 2 COM ports, and a parallel port, and that's it. So we don't have any built-on video, no built-on Ethernet. You know, generally that's why you have so many expansions on here as well. It gives you lots of flexibility, and as boards progressed, they started getting built on board as well. We have our AGP slot that is here. We have 6 PCI slots and 1 ISA slot. And I love the fact that it comes with an ISA slot, giving you additional expansion. You know, all the way from AGP down to ISA. So I think that's fantastic. Then we have our floppy header. We have 2 IDE headers here as well. I don't think I see any SATA on this board. And then we also have 4 SD RAM slots that are here. So lots of expansion in terms of the memory expansion capabilities here. And I like that the processor is seated already in the slot 1 interface here. I think it's looking pretty darn good, and I think it's time to test this out. So let's pop this on this kind of makeshift bench I have going on here. First thing I'm going to do is pop in the video card. Now, also this board, I didn't notice the ATX connector was only the 20 pin. So the nice thing about this is I can just pull off the 4 pin from the 24 pin ATX so that it will be compatible with this board. So I'm going to swap that around, and so you can see that as I do that here. So it's going to connect that in there. So we have the power supply, ATX power supply plugged in there. I'll move all those wires out of the way so I can get a little closer. There we are. So we have that. And we also have the post analyzer card. So this is what, again, like I said earlier, what we would use to see exactly what the board is doing, see if the postcodes come up and, you know, if we're able to get any sort of signal on that. Okay, and the last thing I need to do is connect some memory. Now, I have 2 sticks here just handy that I found in my tickle trunk, so to speak. I'm just going to pop one of them in. Now, everyone knows me on the channel. I don't have any good luck with memory. So I have some contact cleaner here I'm going to use just to put it in the slot there. There we go. Nothing fancy, just enough to get it in there and get this going. So we'll remove that from the equation there. There we are. Okay, we have it popped in there. We have our memory. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and plug in the video cable to the video card. Okay, so I've connected an HP PS2 keyboard, nothing fancy, just enough to see if we're going. Okay, so we have the monitor powered on. I'm going to flick the power supply here and see if anything happens to the board. Nothing. Okay, and we have our trusty on-off switch right there. I know, I have to get a proper one. But we're going to pop that on and see. C1CO. We're getting postcodes. I see the monitor turning green, and there we are. We have post. Lovely. Okay, so we have an Asus P3B-F APCPI BIOS revision 1006. And we have an Intel Pentium 3 running at 600 megahertz, and that must have been 128 megabytes of memory that we were able to get there. And yeah, it's just looking great. It's functioning. We have a Pentium 3 600 motherboard, and already I'm thinking of really cool Windows 98, Windows Millennium, anybody? I can't wait to see the comments down below. But Windows 98 second edition type build with this. Now, somebody made a mention to me in another one of my videos. I think it was my Pentium 200 build. They said that the Voodoo 3 3000 video card that I have in that build is probably not the right one for that, like more of a Banshee, which I do have. So maybe we could do a build with this motherboard with the Voodoo 3 3000 card. I think that would be pretty cool. So we have this up and running. Let's go on to the next motherboard. Okay. I kind of left everything on the bench the way it's set up just because it's easier for everybody to see everything. So we have our second motherboard here in box this time. Let's pop this open. Let's get rid of the box temporarily out of the way and pop this motherboard out. What do we have? There we are. We have a socket 7 motherboard, which is AT. Now, I don't know if I have an AT power supply handy to be able to test this board, but my goodness, do I ever want to. Okay, I'm going to go take a look to see if I can find an ATX power supply, because if I don't have one, sorry, an AT power supply, because if I don't have one, it's kind of going to go by the wayside. But let me see if I can find one right now. So it's your lucky day. I just spent the last 20 minutes, 30 minutes in real time hunting down this AT power supply from AOpen. This power supply is a 200 watt power supply. Now, it is old. I've had this forever. This was actually one of my original power supplies on my Pentium. I believe it was 100 or 133 that I just had to dismantle to take it out. And one of the other things that I did, because it is an AT power supply, safety first, I did electrical tape the end connection that connects to the actual chassis on the computer, the case, just because mains voltage is all going here. And I just want to be absolutely sure that I'm not going to go up in electrical shock in front of everybody on camera. So we have that now. So I'm going to plug the power into this power supply before I do anything, only because, as I mentioned, this power supply has not been used in literally probably, I'm going to say probably 2 decades, maybe 3. Yeah, you get to see what I see, everyone. Let's see what happens. Let's plug this in. So far, so good. I'm not hearing anything, seeing anything. Let's flip the power switch. Fans running. Well, that's good news. All right, let's turn that off. So anyway, we have that working. The other thing that we have to do is connect the AT keyboard that we have from other videos. So we have that out as well. So we're just going to connect that right away just because it is there and it's easy to do and forget while I'm doing this. Okay, we have that connected. So the other thing we're going to do is connect the power to the motherboard. Now, stress this over and over again to anybody connecting an AT power supply. That's why I love ATX so much. There's so much more thought that has to go into AT. So black to black. That's the easiest way we can tell everybody that is black to black. If you reverse it, you can have extreme damage to the motherboard and or the power supply. Again, to put this in, you just angle it on. You angle the back in first and then angle to the front, and then snaps right into place. So we have that connected now. So that's good news. We have that. And we have the power, the keyboard connected there. Of course, the cooler is powered by a Molex connector, so we'll connect that to here just to make sure that gets that going. There we are. We have that connected. And then we also have our video card. And, you know, there's a little more era specific now, or area appropriate, I should say. So we'll connect that in there. We have the video card in. We'll put the VGA cable. And for good measure, we'll just pop this in. I like this motherboard because even though it is a socket 7, it does have the 3 PCI, and then it has 4 ISA slots here as well. And of course, we have on board, I didn't really go over it in detail, but we have our 70-pin EDO RAM here, and we have headers for the game ports and the COM ports and the LPT port, and then your floppy, and then we have 2 IDE connectors all on board, making this a very versatile motherboard. Now, hopefully it works. So we have this on. Hopefully everything is set up correctly. The CPU cooler's on. And then we have our post analyzer card. We have our power connected, or AT power 8 black to black. Keyboard all connected there. And now I'm going to flip on the power here to the computer. And it looks like we're getting post codes. And we have a computer posting. Okay. Wow. All that was worth it. All that work to get that, find that power supply was worth it to get a working motherboard tested. Okay, so we have a release of September 1st of 1995 is the BIOS release date. And it's showing that we have a Pentium 75 running 16 megabytes of memory. Of course, it can't detect the hard drive. We don't have anything in there. CMOS checksum error, defaults loaded. Yes, probably because the Dallas chip. Oh, wait a minute. This actually, no, this does have a CR2032 slot. That's all we need. We're good. F1 to continue or delete to enter setup. We'll do a delete to enter setup. Let's see what we have in our BIOS. So we have a standard BIOS here, CMOS setup utility. Let's go into standard CMOS setup. I love this IDE auto detection feature that it was built into these motherboards. I don't know if you saw one of my, I think it was the e-waste trio. I had to manually enter all the different, cylinders, heads, and sectors in the BIOS configuration for it to be able to detect that hard drive. I mean, that was old school for me. Motherboard number 2, AT style motherboard, socket 7, working beautifully. Let me know what kind of build you'd like to see for a Pentium 75. That's what's in here. That said, let's move on to motherboard number 3. Here we are with motherboard number 3, the P4 P800E Deluxe by Asus, but it's not exactly that's in here. If you remember in my Thrift Finds video, I did comment on that. So again, just to recap, I saw this in an online marketplace listed, made a negotiated deal with the seller just to sell just the motherboard. I wasn't interested in anything else in the lot. Got a good really price. I think it was $5 or $10, not a big deal. But I saw all this and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's awesome. He said it was new in the box and all that and new old stock. And I went, oh, okay, it's looking really good so far. And then I opened up the actual board and it looks like it's predecessor. So it looks like this board here that would have been in this box, Win DVD, that would have been in this box was this replace this board. But I mean, if we get this board going, I think it's still a pretty decent board. And so one of the things that we don't have on this channel, or that we haven't done on this channel, is a Pentium 4 build. I know we've done Pentium 4 videos, but not an actual build. And I had another motherboard on the channel that it was an Acer or an A-Open motherboard. was very well-rounded board, and it's very unfortunate we weren't able to get it going. The processor that I put in here from the previous video is a Pentium 4 3 gigahertz. Now, one of the things, I'm chuckling as I say this, one of the things in the previous video, I had taken this board and shown it. I took it off in camera in the Thrift Finds video and took it all apart, and everybody was, commenting down below, don't lose that plastic piece. Don't, find that plastic piece. Put the plastic piece back in, because I didn't realize at the time, I don't know why I didn't see this in my mind, but we have the AGP Pro slot here. So that requires that extra piece to block from someone from accidentally using this port with an irregular AGP card in the wrong position. Definitely not new in box, but that's what you get on Marketplace. And unfortunately, I was not there to pick it up. I had someone else do that for me, so I had to trust that it was there. But anyway, it is what it is. So hopefully we get this motherboard at least posting today. So this motherboard has the two PS2, your printer, and your parallel and your COM port. And it looks like an audio jack here, or a video jack. Is that, are we talking like TV out sort of thing here, or is it optical audio? I don't know. Anyway, interesting, just to take a look there. So let me know in the comments about that. It looks like we have FireWire, we have 4 USB, we have built-on Ethernet, probably gigabit, and then we have our audio built on, which is always nice. And not only having all that built on, we still have 5 PCI ports, and we also have the AGP Pro port. And then we have a couple of expansion headers here, probably for game port in the front, for the back headers or what have you. We have several of those. We have IDE here. We have 2 IDE here. Or do we have 3? We have 1, 2, and 3 IDE. That's interesting, actually. And then we have a floppy connector here, header here, and we have DDR memory that goes in here. We have that. So I think the first thing we need to do is, before we do anything, we got to get that thermal grease on. So let's get the thermal grease on. Let's get this cooler put on and get that all situated. Okay, good. That's looking good already. We have that on there. Again, don't need a lot of grease, just to spread it, just to get it on there. And my intention is to get this all cleaned up again in the future, so it will be coming off literally in the near future. Okay, let's get some memory for this board. For memory, I have some Kingston memory here. I believe it's 512 megs of RAM. Not sure. It says 512 on the end of it. That's what I'm going to assume what it is. I'm just going to pop this in. Don't need anything fancy. I did use the contact cleaner already, so we have that in there. And we'll pop in the power supply where it's already 20 pin. I already have that extra 4 pin connector off, so that's good news. So we have that on there now. Let's get our video card connected. Exciting stuff to see if this works. And we'll pop that on there. There we are. We have that. We'll get our post analyzer here as well, just so we can see, I don't know, just some satisfaction watching that boot up. Okay, we have all that connected now. Let's get a keyboard out. Now, this does have PS2 compatibility, so I'll use the PS2 keyboard. We could use USB, but I have the PS2 keyboard handy here, so we'll get that connected as well. There we are. That's in there. Awesome. Okay, I believe we are good to go. I just need to find my on-off switch. I know. Stop using it. I'll get a proper switch eventually. Okay. So we have the power on. Let's make sure the power supply is on. Power, we do. I have a green light on the board. I'm not hearing or seeing anything bad so far. Not that I'm anticipating it, but let's turn on the power. Okay, we have power, came on, and it turned off right away. Let's try it again. Well, that is interesting. So I'm going to turn it on, and it starts to boot and starts to post and just stops, as you saw on the video there. Now, let's just do some troubleshooting here. Let's take the video card out and just see what we get. And we'll do the same thing with the memory, and we'll work backwards that way. Okay, just cuts off right away. Let's pop out the memory. It powers up and then dies right away. Is it a bad cap on the board? Gotta do some testing there for sure. Okay, so it's doing a similar thing as one of my other boards were doing, and that leads me to believe that it's a potential problem with a cap possibly on the board, like one of the caps I'm not sure, or one of their components. I am disappointed that this board is not working, to be honest with you, because it's my second P4 board now. I don't think it's I don't know exactly what it is. I'll have to obviously have to look there. We have the CPU back in. So if you know in the comments down below you think it's a capacitor problem, I can do some additional testing on this motherboard. But for today, I'm just going to move on to board number 4. Again, I'm a little disappointed just because of the fact that this is a second P4 motherboard that unfortunately is not functional and was told new old stock, obviously not, and also wasn't what was in the board either, which is extremely disappointing. So again, let me know in the comments. I'm not giving up on this board. I think this is a fantastic board. All right, I'm going to move on to board number 4. Okay, and we have motherboard number 4. So hopefully, we have 2 out of 4 working so far. Hopefully this doesn't let us down. We'll end with a good show here. So this motherboard was given to me, and I don't know its condition, to be honest. I was just given it and said, here you go. And this is definitely a newer motherboard-ish compared to some of the other ones that we've been using, specifically on this video, but other videos that we've done. It is an AMD AM3 socket CPU, so I don't exactly know the processor that's in this, where this is already all connected nice and clean, and I'm just going to test it as is. So I'm going to leave it as that. This motherboard is an Asus ASRock 970M Pro 3 with AMD Crossfire technology. It looks like it has one PCI 1, and we have 2 16-lane here, and we have one PCI slot here. So, I mean, again, because of what we're doing in terms of the video, I won't be using the post analyzer card. I'll be using the video card in here. Now, obviously, if I need to, I will swap out, find a PCI 16 card, and use the post analyzer in the PCI slot. But okay, so this motherboard itself has 4, looks like DDR3 memory, yeah, and it comes with 2 4-gig sticks that are pre-installed. Not touching them, I'm leaving them as is for now. And we have a 24-pin ATX connector and an 8-pin connector up top here. So definitely going to require this power supply for that. We have a couple of USB breakouts here, headers on the board, so you plug them into the back of your case. For additional expandability, but having your PS2 plus 6 USB ports, and we have USB 2 and USB 3 here. Sorry, 8. I didn't see that. You have 8 right on the back here. I don't know how many more USB ports you'd require. Then we have our gigabit port, which I would imagine given the age of the board, and then we have our audio as well. So definitely a well-rounded board. So yeah, it says front USB 3 right on the silk screen here, so it's really nice. And it looks like it's using solid caps instead of electrolytics, so that's nice to have as well. I don't know the difference in terms of longevity, but they're there, which is great. It looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 SATA connections. This board definitely has a lot of capacity and a lot of expandability in such a small form factor. Especially when you look at some of the other ones we've had on the channel. I think it's time to see what we can do with this board and hope to heck it powers up. I mean, I want to end this video on a good note. Okay, so we have our power. So I'm just going to slide that back on, just because we had it off for the. There we go. We had it off just for the other side there. So we'll get this connected. There we are. And then we'll get our 8-pin connector here. And, I was boasting how long this cable was, so hope it doesn't make a liar to me. So here we go. Get that connected there. And that's the problem with these, is the more you use it, the harder it is to get it all on there. Okay, there we are. We got that connected, which is beautiful. Okay, we'll get our 1995 video card. Hopefully it works. I mean, it should be fine for this. If not, I'll get a newer video card. We won't have the post analyzer card in here. I think we can survive without it. And then we'll pop in our PS2 keyboard. I think we're good here. We're going to take my magical switch here and power it up. I just want to make sure that the power supply is turned on to power. It is. We have it all good. Video card's connected. Two power pins are connected to the board. Processor, I didn't take it out of there, so I'm assuming that's going to be fine. PS2 is plugged in as well. Okay, let's fire this up. And nothing. Okay. I'm going to get a different video card for this to see if we can get it going with PCIe so I can get the post analyzer card going, and I may hook up the speaker as well to see if we have any post codes here. So I've gone ahead and removed the video card and just put the post analyzer card in here, just to kind of give us an idea of what is happening with this board. And I also figured I would just take the memory out and just try a stick of RAM to see if there's an issue with the stick of RAM. I'm trying to eliminate some of the possibilities here, RAM being one of them. Post analyzer cards installed. Let's power the switch on to the power supply. We have power by the looks of things, and we'll use our magical switch here to turn on the power. Yep, and nothing on the post analyzer. Let's use some good old contact cleaner there in the slot. I'm running out of the stuff here. I gotta order some more. Okay, we got that. We'll pop it in here again. Just see. Yeah, it's in nice and firmly there. Let's set the power to the power supply and try it again. Ah, look at that. Postcodes. We have postcodes. That's good news. And no doubt it's probably complaining about a video card. Well, let's go ahead and turn that off. Take the analyzer out and see if it will work with the video card installed. So we get some display on the screen. Power back on. And flip the little switch here. It says 99 on the bottom. I'm gonna look that up. It says error 99. Now, I don't know if that's a postcode of some sort or some kind of warning screen as part of the system BIOS. Let me just look that up real quickly. Okay, so after some troubleshooting with the memory, as you can see in my little fast forward there, the ATI Mach 64 video card from 1994-95 just was too old for this board. It just didn't know what to do, didn't know how to handle this. I popped in one of my PCIe video cards, actually. You can see that it is working here. So let's look at what we have. UEFI version 970M Pro 3 P1.6. Our processor is an AMD FX 6300, 6-core processor running at 35 megahertz, so 3.5 gigahertz. And I realize this is much newer than what we're used to seeing on the channel. This is probably one of the newest boards that I own outside of any new equipment. I believe this is from 2015 based on what I saw on the date code of the user manual. But we have 8 gigs of memory here, which we knew. It shows you what slots are populated here, which arguably are the second slots, so that's interesting. It's working. OC tweaker, so we have the ability to go in and do some overclocking if required, and we can do some different tests with this. I want to make sure the system gets stable first. Under advanced, we have different configurations. So we have a CPU configuration, North Bridge and South Bridge storage, Super I/O configuration, and USB configuration. This is board number 4. Yes, we need to do some troubleshooting. I believe that we had some issues with the RAM for sure. The post analyzer card proved that when we plugged this in just without the video card in it, it was just lines right across, just dashes. We weren't able to get anything on this motherboard. It wasn't able to post until I messed around with the RAM a bit, used some contact cleaner. We were able to get that seated properly and going. But on top of that, it led us to the second error, which was created by myself, which was the ATI Mach 64 card, which we were able to get resolved with a PCIe 16 card that I have here. So we have board number 4 working properly. Let's get the bench all cleaned up here and get it all kind of ready and do our final overview. And here we are all set back up on the bench. I'm just absolutely excited. There's so much goodness in this one video here, in this one picture. I mean, we have our Pentium 3 600 board, which worked absolutely perfectly. Very excited to have that. Give me some ideas. I'm thinking of Windows 98 SE build or Windows Millennium. I know. Anyway, that type of board, maybe a gaming rig, but a beautiful board. seems to be testing just fine. We have to put it through some load testing, but I think that's pretty decent. Then we have our AM3, which is the newest of all the boards here, and arguably the newest on the channel that we've shown, the ASRock 970M Pro 3 board. And it, we had some problems with it. And through different troubleshooting means, we were able to get the system posting no problem. We had some memory problems, and of course, it didn't like the good old ATI Mach 64 video card we were using there. So we got that out of the system and fixed it up pretty good. So it was nice to see that post. I don't want to end on a bad note here, so we'll do this third. And we have our P4 motherboard here. And this is an Asus P4 C800. Obviously, there's a reason why they swapped the board out. I'm very curious about this board. So again, if you know anything about this board, or if you have any sort of ideas, please let me know down in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. I mean, we have the processor seated correctly. We have the fan on. All the contacts are made. We have the maybe it was arguing about the video card. Actually, now that I think about it, we didn't try anything differently in this, like a newer video card. But I have tried that video card in P4s before, and it's worked. But again, I can troubleshoot that off camera. Actually, I just noticed something, that the 4-pin was not connected to the computer. I'm going to do a jump cut right now and do a test on this, because I want to see if that actually worked. 1 second. Okay, future me here, all set up here. As you can see, I was doing the outro and then realized I hadn't plugged in the 4-pin connector there for the processor. So that's probably the problem here, why it wouldn't stay powered on. Yeah, I mean, you're live with me now, so let's do a little test to see. I have the power supply all connected this time. I had the post analyzer card, the Mach 64 cards plugged back in here. I put the cooler back on, the CPU back on there, so that's all connected. Okay, so we have the RAM connected there. We have, I think it's 512 megs of DDR memory. Okay, let's hit the power switch, so to speak. Look at this. Oh, I feel so silly. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, anyway, it's posting. 4 motherboards, all 4 working. I mean, you got to see it real live here. Now, obviously, there's another problem that I'm seeing here. It's not posting because of something. So maybe a memory issue. So let me just try to troubleshoot that real quickly here. I'm using the AGP slot because that's all I had. So I have the AGP 128 Rage Pro video card in here. As you can see, a much better display coming up on this board. So that ATI Mach 64 card, poor guy, it's just not going to be able to stay in the game much longer. Okay, so we have the PC4800 Deluxe by Asus motherboard. Press delete to enter setup. We'll do that. Here we go. Okay, so it's it's coming up on the screen again. Let me see if I can adjust this now this time. So we have an Asus P4 C800 BIOS revision 1011, Intel Pentium 4 running 3 gigahertz. So that's exactly the CPU we have in here. Press delete to run setup. DDR frequency is 266 megahertz, single or virtual single channel. That's fine. 512 megs of RAM. That's what it said on the chip, so that's okay. Hey guys, this is posting. That's what's important. Nothing like doing an outro to talk about the motherboards. And I don't know how many people were screaming at the screen going, you're forgetting the 4-pin. And I've done that before. And I'm wondering now if I did that on the other P4 board that's having the exact same symptoms as this board was. My goodness gracious. I feel so silly, but you know what? You make mistakes. It happens. We're not perfect. And stuff like that happens. So let me get all this cleaned up again. It's just so exciting to see this on the screen, but let me get this all cleaned up and we'll continue on the outro. And here we are for our second outro. I never have done that yet on the channel, all because of something so silly on this motherboard. But anyway, we have an Asus P3B-F motherboard running a Pentium 3 600 slot 1 processor there. Really excited to get that going in some sort of build. We have an AMD AM3 motherboard over here with an ASRock 970M Pro 3 board. really excited to have that in the collection. And, let me know again in the comments what I should be doing with these boards and what type of builds. And then we have our first working functional Pentium 4 motherboard. And this motherboard is just a beast, a P4 C800 Deluxe motherboard by Asus. And, it's running just fine. Once I realized that there's a 4-pin that I was missing that entire time. And I feel absolutely silly because of that. I could have cut this out, but that's the fun in doing a video like this. You keep those things in and yeah, you just learn from it. But I won't forget that again. What's funny is I had that happen before to me, and I don't know why I continued to forget it. But anyway, there we go. We have this motherboard fully working. I was going to say some choice words about it, but don't need to now. It works. So the seller, thank you. You were right. It does work. It's fine. And then, just look at this beautiful motherboard. You can't go wrong with a Socket 7 motherboard. Our Pentium 75 system here, and, just really excited to have this in the mix as well. So again, let me know down in the comments what sort of builds you'd like to see with these boards. We have another four, I should say, working motherboards on the Retro Recall. This has been such a good time being able to test all these motherboards. It's always exciting for me to see. That said, if you like today's video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. Change the notification to all of you notified of when I make new content such as this. Down in the comment section, please comment if you liked today's video. Let me know what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. Did you have these motherboards, in your collection? What kind of builds would you like to see? I'd love to hear all about that in the comments. So I reply to all my comments. So love the interaction. Keep it going. And also, I'm always making new content. Love doing this for everybody. So everybody have a great day, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.